Good evening. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at Town Hall at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. Meeting details and the draft agenda were also posted on our township website. Please all stand to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Propus?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Thaw-Eglow?
Here.
Mr. Vinayak?
Here.
Mr. Wasserman?
Here.
Mayor Meggins?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I request the Township Committee revise the agenda this evening to move up the public comment period to earlier in the agenda and prior to consideration of our consent agenda resolutions. The Rules of Order resolution is scheduled to be before the committee at our May 17th committee meeting. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as revised to move up public comment period?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Minutes from the February 15th, 2022 regular meeting. May I have a motion to approve the February 15th, 2022 regular Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Reports. Ms. Prupitz, do you have any reports for us?
No reports tonight.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Thaw-Eglow, do you have any reports for us this evening?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
On April 26th was the Fair Share Housing Design Public Meeting, took place in Town Hall and by Zoom. The survey was out, which closes tonight. It has so far 650 responses, and the tallies will be shared after they are tallied. Let's see what else. We had a ribbon cutting ceremony at the Triangle on Whittingham across from the Taylor Park tennis courts, and this was initiated by the Green Team, Renee Pedestrian, Ellen Ingbar, designed by Mark Robeson. And there's a lot of contributors, and I think they are all worthy of a shout out. So I might have Sanjeev help me here. So first it was this Short Hills financial contributors: Short Hills Garden Club, the Millburn Short Hills Chamber of Commerce, the Millburn Environmental Commission, Eileen and Carrie Heller, Ratikar Iyengar,
Nidhi Thakur, Vanita Gangwal, Sapna Gupta, Janvi Bhatt, Kumkum Shrivastava, Anupama Gupta, Archana Malajoswala, Arti Madhusudan.
and we had actual hands-on in-soil participation was
Vanita Gangwal, Radhika Iyengar,
many members of the Millburn for Climate Action. Again, the Short Hills Garden Club got in there and got their hands dirty. Chamber of Commerce members. Julie Neiman, if you remember a couple of years ago, the young lady who had the initiative to collect plastic from town, collected hundreds and hundreds of pounds of plastic, and we have a Trex bench there. Karen Eastman Bigos. Shout out to Ben Cipher, who got his Eagle Scout. He got the troops from troops 19 and 17 together. And also they have some contributors for the last minute for the violet seeds: Judith Christian, Elizabeth Boland, and Alant T, who's from Livingston. So that was really a success. You're going to see that growing. It's a work in progress, so give it time. It's going to be beautiful. On Wednesday, May 4th, coming up, is National Bike Enroll to School Day. The day brings together families, communities, and community leaders to bike, walk, or roll to school to celebrate the benefits of active school commuting and the importance of safety. And this is from the PSAB, Millburn's Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board. We held a contest for township students K through 8 to design posters commemorating the day. The winning posters are on the website, and the winning poster for K through 2 category was Mila S. from Hartshorn School. 3 through 5 was Julia M. from 3rd grade Wyoming. Grades 6 through 8 was Angela H. from 7th grade Newark Academy. PSAP talked about investigating four-way stop signs at the larger intersections in the poet section. And our next safety campaign, the slogans, we're going to work on stop signs and crosswalks. For some reason in this town, there is a problem with people stopping at stop signs, many of our own residents, and crosswalks. I was in Newport, Rhode Island for the weekend, and it's just amazing how people just stop for you before you're even on the curb. So it's something that this town really needs to work on. And I think that was it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wasserman?
Yes, just a couple reports, Mayor. This past Saturday, Founder's Day was a major success, and I want to thank all the volunteers that came out to help us make it a success. I posted on the social media some pictures of all the volunteers and all the kids that came out, cleaned up the town. We also had a very successful Stuff the Bus event where people dropped off dry food for our very own food pantry. I also want to thank Annette Romano for taking the lead on that. So we had a very successful event, and I've come to find out that that the food pantry is currently supporting 15 local families. So I just want people to know that even in a affluent town like ours, we still are taking care of some of our neighbors, so which is really nice. Also, I want to mention that some of our flood mitigation work we've been ongoing, and we've printed some hurricane survival guide manuals that are, Alex, these are on the website too.
They're on the website.
These are on the website, and I just want to remind our neighbors and our businesses that hurricane season is coming again. So please do a little research, do some homework in terms of how to prepare for this coming season. Unfortunately for us, there could be, other storms that could be coming in this, late summer, or early fall, and we certainly want to be prepared for it. Lastly, Explore Millburn is hosting Girls Night Out. So this is Friday, May 6th, this Friday, 5 to 8 p.m. So come out, support the town. Ladies, please enjoy. There's going to be a lot of fun activities, and there'll be some promotion this week, but it should be a lot of fun. So stay in town, shop local, stay local, and enjoy our restaurants.
Thank you. Mr. Vinayak?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
What Mr. Wasserman just said about the hurricane season coming in, that's what I want to repeat again. There's a lot of resources, information out there on the township website. We are working on the drainage program on the South Mountain side, along with the wall that just initiated. The idea just initiated on the Glen Avenue, still in process, long way to go. But there are 2-3 projects that we are kind of discussing and working on. But along with that, the team is so geared up. They have come and made from the old resources, brought back, made some more pages or information that township residents can use and make feel safe when the hurricane comes, or if that comes. So just keep this going. The township website is a great resource for that. Thank you, Mayor.
May I just add to remind people, my neighbors, that flood insurance is available. You've got to go on the FEMA site, and it is really imperative, if you're in a flood zone, investigate flood insurance.
Federal flood insurance.
Federal FEMA.
Yeah.
And that zone is in the South Mountain section.
What Mr. Wasserman just said is federal flood insurance. He says that because one of the projects that we are working on is home elevation program.
Mhm.
And that home elevation program where government funds the resident, it only happens if you have that flood federal backed insurance for the house.
And-
Thank you.
And just one other thing I forgot to mention, maybe Alex can point this out. I think that after many, many years, we're finally installing a barrier by the bridge behind the stander.
It has been installed.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's installed, and this is also something that flood mitigation worked on. This has been discussed for many, many years, and I'm just very happy that there's going to be some extra protection by the bridge.
So that doesn't stop
Thank you.
flooding, it would just stop a car from going.
Yeah,
over.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cars or trash bins or
It's not
whatever.
gonna stop water. though.
Remember, it's flood mitigation.
Yeah,
We cannot stop the
we
flooding.
can't stop it,
We
but
can only mitigate,
right.
work towards making it
Yeah.
a little bit easier on the residents.
but that hopefully
Yes.
that'll help keep cars from going over our trash bins.
Awesome, thank you. Mr. Carney, do you have any reports?
No reports this evening.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McDonald, do you have any reports?
Just a few brief reports. One is that in addition to what Committeeman Vinayak and Committeeman Wasserman stated, on May 11th, we will be hosting a hurricane preparedness session at 7 p.m. That will be done here in Town Hall, as well as online via Zoom. We will have our Office of Emergency Management members, which is inclusive of Captain Beatty from the Fire Department, Captain Blazinski from the Police Department, and Chief Echeverria from the Fire Department, as well as Jesse and I, in attendance to sort of go through preparedness tips. There's a whole host of resources for residents and for business owners to utilize on the Township's Office of Emergency Management page. And a lot of that comes from state, federal agencies. Ready.gov provides checklists, 12 steps that you should do to be prepared for and natural disasters or other things. And so it's one of those things that's just really helpful to go through and check off, and maybe you do one once a week or whatever it is to prepare yourselves. But a lot of good resources there on the website. Just in addition to Deputy Mayor Eglo's report, and I apologize, I didn't give these to her while she was going through it, but these are the posters that won for the bike stroll Enroll to school, which is tomorrow, and so we hope everybody will do so safely. And hopefully we'll have a very nice day for everybody to do that. But just wanted to, those will be posted on social media tomorrow as well, just to remind everybody that tomorrow is that day. This evening we held a quick informational session on the overlay zones as a result of the settlement of fair share housing. We will have another one of those sessions on Thursday at 11 a.m. via Zoom. That information is on the township website.
Also, can you speak to, remember last week, our meeting in the meeting, the pilot program that we've been asked to,
Yes.
Millburn's been asked to be on?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, we the Township of Millburn has been asked to be a part of a resiliency accelerator, which is basically a group of towns that have experienced flooding like ours, and will be able to get together and work with various resources through FEMA and funding sources through NJOAM or something, different organizations like that. Sort of right at the beginning of trying to work through and identify different players and different needs, but certainly exciting. I think we're one of 7 communities that were asked to be a part of this pilot, and something I think would eventually be extended to other communities in the state, but certainly a good spot to identify resources.
Thank you very much.
I have a question.
yes, ma'am.
Are we closing the street, Main Street this weekend?
Yes, I think that he didn't mention. So
I
yeah.
think we should mention it.
Yeah, so the street will be closed Friday at 4 o'clock, and we'll be opening on Sunday. But I think it's sort of the normal procedure with the closure, but it won't be happening every weekend. It'll just be every so often.
Unless something can change because what had happened, so everybody does know this, the Department of Transportation decided that since Governor Murphy's COVID was in,
Executive order.
his executive order was pulled, that we could not close our streets. So we are, and we'd ask you to lobby our assemblyman and Senator Cody to speak to the Department of Transportation. That's, our businesses are just getting up and running and doing well. And when we close down the streets and we have bands and we have, the restaurants that can double their capacity, we think it's important that we can do that. It was a big success last year. And so we all need to speak to the department or the governor and everyone else to open those roads back up. And it's not just Millburn. There's so many towns across the state that are really looking to have that happen. So for now, we have to open them and close them within a 48-hour period. Mr. McDonald, is it?
We're still doing it on the weekends.
On the
What are we
weekends?
doing? Like, is there a plan? Like, is there scheduled dates that are known at this point that we can share, or is it more?
Yeah, not to my knowledge, because it's generally gonna be based on the Explore Millburn programming and stuff like that. So the closure will coincide with something going on.
And then we'll just send it out through.
Yeah, so Steve from the city is communicating that with the businesses.
No, I meant the residents
Yeah,
too.
yes.
We'll let and the
Yeah.
message, we can let them know. But in the meanwhile, please lobby our assemblymen and our state senators and the governor's office that you'd like that closed.
And then one other thing, because it wasn't mentioned about the alleyway.
The
next to
artwork?
Goldberg, and also the games, so, and the lighting that Explore Steve put up with Explorers, that in the alleyway between Goldberg's and Springbone.
Chess
There's a
set?
chess, like a human live
Chess set?
chess set or human
Bocce.
scale, bocce, lights, some tables. So I think like the idea is to take what was happening at the Main Street closure and just move it down a little bit.
Yeah, to encompass
have
all of
some
our
public
areas.
space.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that as part of my report.
Okay.
I missed that one. And there's also beautiful artwork that's up also, and that we've really, the city has really worked hard to activate that area. So it's another place for our residents to enjoy themselves while they grab some food, maybe.
So let me ask you a question, Alex. Is there a limit to how many times we will be allowed? It just has to coincide with an event.
No.
So how are you
No.
guys
It cannot
decide?
exceed
Cannot
48 hours.
exceed.
Can't exceed 48 hours. The
So you-
closure can't
so
exceed 48
And
hours.
there's a
Theoretically-
budget. though,
Right, so
too.
theoretically, you're not gonna do it every weekend.
As of right
No.
now.
Well, I think, there is the courtyard, which was utilized before we ever closed Main Street. Let me ask you a question. The parking lot behind the Standard, which the bollard just went up to prevent. I know that if theoretically, let's suppose all those cars were to park in business permit parking, could that be used as an outdoor eating space? I don't know what's back there.
It's a fire lane,
Oh, it's a fire lane.
so
think
I don't think it would be prudent to utilize that as an outdoor dining space, but I understand where your thought process is.
Right, because not everyone had access to Main Street anyway, so I think we want to be, fair and partial to all of our restaurants and what they can do to expand their spaces.
What happened to those parklets that we created in front of different places? We can do the same, right?
We're working on that as well, yep.
Yeah, so that gives a chance for every
Little bit.
restaurant or every other retail space to do their work.
But even there, that, you have to be judicious about, how you manage that and how many places have that ability. And I think within the resolution that was passed by the township committee, it stated that they can't be within 100 feet of each other. And, you need to, because otherwise every parking space might be taken up by a parklet. Not that would necessarily, I'm not saying passing judgment one way or the other, but certainly it would be problematic to certain businesses in certain areas. So, but we are also working on that as well.
I want to give a shout out to one of our crossing guards at the corner of Forest and Hobart. I travel down Hobart Avenue every day from my home to get to my job. He's doing a tremendous job. I don't know his name, but he is doing a fabulous job. So I think that you should let the crossing guard company know that, whoever that gentleman is. The library will be opening. Alex, did they give us our official date for the library? They were moving everything in this week. So I believe that the library will be back official. I know they closed down the NESS site, and I know they were moving everything into back into the library. So I believe that should be this weekend that the library's open. So fingers crossed. I saw some pictures and it looks terrific. And then also just to remind everybody, our Memorial Day parade is this year on Memorial Day at 11 a.m. Kickoff is out of from the high school. And we'll be sending messages just to those people that live on Duncan and Bodwell, just so they know that for 15 minutes, part of their street's going to be closed down. But that's where we'll be starting. It promises to be fun. We might have some animals, some bands. I'm really excited about it. Some high school kids coming as well. So it's very exciting. And again, that starts at 11. That's it for me. All right, here we go. Public comment. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, and speak loudly so that your comments may be understood by all and properly recorded. For the convenience of our community, there is a remote option available. If you called in and would like to comment, please press *6 now. If you're attending by computer or electronic device, please click the raise hand button. All members of the public wishing to speak will be put into the queue to address the committee. Whenever an audience or committee member reads verbatim from a prepared statement, please email a copy to the Township Clerk's office at townclerk@millburntwp.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 1 3-minute session. You will be prompted when there is 30 seconds remaining. Each individual will be given 1 opportunity to make their public comment. Please be patient, and we will address each member of the public that wishes to speak. This is a business meeting, and please do not address professionals or staff directly, and please do direct all comments to me. A reminder that we are all neighbors and personal attacks will not be tolerated. I will now open the public comment period.
My friends, Mayor Miggins,
Good
Deputy
evening.
Mayor Eglo, committee members and Business Administrator Alex McDonald. I thank you and those members of the Flood Mitigation Advisory Board who were involved in supporting and implementing the recent 2D study that yielded the favorable results regarding our buildings. And I appreciate the public statement made at the last Township Committee meeting, directing the public's awareness to those results. Also, be assured that I recognize the position you are in and appreciate the diligence through which you found ground to arrive at an unbiased way towards resolution of this matter. For that reason, I exercised a laid-back and reserved position. Having said all of that, I make the following comments that are not necessarily directed to you as the committee, but rather to the broader audience. They will be brief and only in general terms and will not use names, but rather make references as somebody. These comments will be out of my character for my norm. I don't feel good about it, nor am I comfortable with it, but this is as reserved as it could be. As an example, at around the time of a recent master plan drafting, there was mention of a need to conduct another flood study in the downtown. I noticed that reference was made to our buildings as being responsible for increased flooding in the downtown. Keep in mind that there had been flood studies performed in the past and none of them identified the buildings as being a cause or causing an increase to the flooding. But there had been previous flood studies that said that there would be flooding, whether the building was there or not, and if the building were to be removed, there would be no appreciable change. The buildings were identified in the master plan draft, specifically by location and address. A meeting was scheduled for the board to vote on accepting the draft, entertain any comments, and then forward to the Township Committee for acceptance. I attended that meeting and asked the planner and/or the engineer who were present to field questions. I asked why the buildings were so specifically identified. I asked if a flood study were conducted, wouldn't every part of the waterway be looked at anyway? He said, yes, that would be correct. I asked, why did you so specifically identify that one location? His answer was because a property owner wanted it there. I asked who, and he answered somebody. I approached the board. Mr. Libby was the chair, and I pointed out that by so identifying the property, effect was negatively impacting the ability to lease, and if we decided to sell, it would negatively impact the property value. Mr. Libby and several other board members agreed, supported my interpretation, and then took a few minutes to change the wording, reading it to me, asked if I approved, and the change was made. Another example, if any of you had the experience of being through a flood and its aftermath, I have, you would know that it's like being a deer caught in headlights. Afterwards, as you look at your loss, there's a time of sadness, recognizing your loss, grieve, and the realization that you better take stock of what needs to be done and get moving on it. But this time, and within days after Ida, somebody spent time invading my neighbor's time to regroup and deal with a catastrophic event, and while emotionally vulnerable, by attempting to divert their time and efforts to cast blame for their misfortune. That was divisive, manipulative, cruel, obsessive, and opportunistic to further an agenda of somebody's years in the making. These are just 2 recent examples of which I have many, many more that don't even involve me or our property. This stops now. One way or another, this bullying stops now. I have the utmost respect for you as a committee and for anyone who volunteers their time and commitment to their community. At this time, what I can say is, if I were campaigning for office now or had done so within the past several years, and I had taken campaign contributions from somebody or anybody like that, I would return that to them and be as diligent as possible to create as much distance from somebody like that. As far as I know, for this, there hasn't been an antihistamine developed. Thank you.
My pleasure, Mr. Futter.
Jay Morreale, #1 Carmont Drive. I'd like to start by thanking the town committee, Alex and Greg Petto, for the information session on the overlay zone that occurred earlier this evening. It was very informative. I will share the 3 concerns with the committee that I shared with Alex and Greg. First, the increase in building height in the B2 zone, specifically the 1801 section, as the zoning ordinance is broken into very fine granular detail. There's no need for 4-story buildings to achieve the DU required. Setbacks, there's no need to reduce the setback to residential property from 50 feet to 40 feet. Third, there's no need for multi-use residential and commercial buildings in order to meet our obligation under the settlement. For reference, I calculated the actual density of the Silverman project and came up with a number of 13 units per floor per acre. The B2 zone has been required to have a max DU of 18. You can achieve an 18 with the 2-story building if you say no commercial. In addition, you'll eliminate additional parking needs that will be needed for commercial if you have in those buildings. And you won't need to reduce the distances to residential property. But thank you, and Greg and Alex said they would take a look again at those figures and get back to us by Thursday. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Alex. Second, when I raised my hand at last week's meeting, I was going to respond to a resident who asked about the requirement for safety training prior to achieve a gun purchase permit. Not sure if she's on the call, but there is a bill in the New Jersey State Legislature, A993, and a companion bill in the Senate, which would require safety training prior to obtaining a permit. So if you are calling your assembly people, Ila JC and John McKeon, or Senator Cody to talk about the Department of Transportation, please bring up A993 if this is important to you. Finally, I'd like to make a suggestion regarding the second comment period. Consider, if you will, having a second comment period dependent on the time of the evening. Nobody expects the town council, or at least I don't expect the town council to be here 11, 12, 1 in the morning. Limit the content to be response to new business or rebuttal, and limit the time to 2 minutes. Maybe that's a compromise that the town committee would be comfortable with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morreale.
Hello, this is Ravindra Gupta, and I live on Tennyson Drive in Short Hills. And the point I was trying to bring here is that we need a dog park. In the town, it's much needed. It's been long overdue. I think we all know with the COVID, there's a survey which was done which says that almost 60% more resident has a dog now. So obviously there is a big population. Another survey which was done is the millennials and the new generations which is coming to the town. One of the most attractive offer is to have a dog park. So I think that this is much needed facility which is required for the dog. And I know that some of the park work is done, which is Taylor Park, for example, has been opened up. So yes, there is a bit of a flexibility for the pets, but at the same time, you don't want to play tennis while the dog is running next to you. So I think that we need a dedicated dog park. And for that, I think I was doing a bit of a research in terms of what are the facilities or what are the places where we could potentially open these dog parks. And I found the Gero Park, for example, the backside of the Gero Park, which is nobody goes on that side, that could be one potential location. Hobart Avenue has one place which seems to be, could fit for a dog park, but again, there's not enough space for the parking. And given that most of the cases, the people will come to the park with with their childs and the pets, so it would be important aspect which need to be considered. So I think from my perspective, I believe that, Gero Park could be a great potential, which is, I think the backside of the Gero Park has a lot of space, which is not used, and could be one location where this dog park would be opened up. Again, another thing which I found, I was in Jersey City, a couple of weeks back, I found that this is again generating a lot of revenue to the town as well, in terms of giving the permit to the dog and to the dog owners, and then making sure that those facilities are well maintained. So, again, my proposal is to consider as dog park as part of, recreational budget, and that let's build it into the town. Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Feld, 11 Alexander Lane, Short Hills, New Jersey. I echo many of the comments that Jay did, and especially the seminars we've had on the budget and on fair share housing. And that's something that we should be proud of, that we're moving that way for transparency. As to Mother's Day, a shout out to all the mothers in the community. I want to give a shout out to my mother, who taught me the importance of charity, speaking truth to power, and raising the bar and not accepting poor performance as a business person. I also want to give a shout out to my daughter. Tonight at 10:45 will be her 34th birthday. 5 weeks born premature in the backseat of my car, setting off a chain of events that brought me here to tonight. Since the last meeting, I think we should be focusing on what President Obama's speech in Stanford, when he talked about misinformation and social media and lack of true newspaper investigative reportings. And it was interesting that President Obama, throughout his speech, cited and referred to a Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, talking about a government of, by, and for the people. And that's something I think we lost sight of here. Prior to this last couple of days, I've been submitting heads up questions. I'm not going to go through them, will be part of the record. I also sent to you various cases that have been coming out in the last 2 or 3 days about freedom of speech, qualified immunity, Oprah. There was a very big case that came out today in West Orange about development. And also I refer you to an op-ed in today's Star Ledger about qualified immunity. I bring that out because I filed a lawsuit. The town has filed a motion to dismiss the case, and you claim qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is a defense. It's time to file an answer and let's start the case and let's start taking discovery and taking depositions. I also want to set forth the record correct. Many people are now listening to what has been happening. I started attending meetings in September 2020 in person. And many people do not understand or do not appreciate that certain major actions occurred in September 2020. Our BA retained outside counsel in the first lawsuit that was filed by Carrie Heller, that being the Commons case, challenging what happened at the Wells Fargo site. In addition, our municipal clerk, who I very respect, distanced herself from the CID. They requested an opinion regarding robust informed civic participation. Supposedly they obtained that opinion because you paid for it, but it's never been shared with the public. In May 2021, we had to adopt a Civil Rights Act policy and procedure. It's interesting, when I filed notices of claims about the violation of my right to speak, that those notices were sent to another outside counsel and not our current counsel. In July, when I filed my other lawsuit, which really was based on remarks that were made by this council as policy about me, and the right for all citizens and residents to have the right to speak prior to take official action, you retain different counsel to defend that action. And I think the public needs to know that some people in this building seek independent counsel. And maybe it's time that we retain new counsel to defend us. Again, to all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day.
Nancy Stone, 10 Fielding Road, 266 Essex Street. I want to thank you for providing that information session that was earlier. Grant was amazing. He gave a very nice presentation, and it was very helpful when you have someone that is presenting this information and you feel like you matter as a taxpayer in this community. I think that's really important. I want to put on the record once again, I'm 100% against the 100% affordable housing on the Main Street. I think, again, it stigmatizes the property. Something has to be done about that. I don't understand how that can really pass for law, and somebody who is very pro democracy and equality and about, you know, everybody having their quote unquote place in the sun in this community. I don't see how that is going to be beneficial, having 100% locked into there. There has to be an alternative, and there has to be some sort of renegotiation at that site. Very important. Friday night, we will not be participating. Girls' Night Out has always been a security issue for us. We participated in the past, and we found people that were not normally customers coming into the shop that we were not comfortable, you know, not knowing, because we buzz clients in and out of our shop. So we'll participate in other ways, whether I'm shopping Friday afternoon or something to contribute to the community, which I always do. And last but not least, I really want to thank the effort of Jeff, who has done an amazing job really outlining a lot of the highlights that this town council needed to pay attention to. And I also want to thank him for his donation that came with his son, came out from New York, and he made his donation to the food pantry as well to stuff the bus, which certainly is a worthy cause in this community. But other people other than, you know, the two other candidates who I felt took it as an opportunity, as a campaign tool, should be given equal rights as well. So I want to thank Jeff and his son for their donation to the food pantry.
Thank you.
My name is Ankur Manglik, 330 White Oak Ridge Road. I'm here to talk about a pedestrian safety issue at the Millburn train station. People park in the library parking lot, people park in the overhead parking garage, the covered parking garage, and then they have to cross Lackawanna Place to get to Millburn train station. Crossing Lackawanna Place is dangerous. It's dangerous for cars, it's dangerous for pedestrians. The road curves at a certain place, and where the tracks go over Lackawanna Place, there are pillars, obviously, under the tracks that make visibility very unclear. It's not clear to the cars. There are pedestrians on the other side. It's not clear to pedestrians if there's any cars coming. On top of that, usually this kind of stuff happens during rush hour. People are trying to make the train, and they are, you know, rushing across the street in the evenings. People are coming back from work. They're getting in their cars and speeding back home, which is a problem which I'm sure did not exist in Newport. But look, I wish this was Newport. I wish people would stop, but we are a commuter town and people are trying to get to and from the train station very quickly. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. So anyway, long story short, this creates a safety issue. And the reason it creates a safety issue is because what people have to do is once they park, they cross Lackawanna Place, then they take the steps up to Millburn Station. It would be better if they could take the steps up first and then use some kind of an overhead to cross Lackawanna Place and get to the train station, right? So this would obviously avoid the need for pedestrians to cross Lackawanna Place. It's a simple solution. I think we just need to put the steps on the other side of the street. You know, people park in the library parking lot in the covered garage. They take the steps up and take the bridge to cross Lackawanna Place. They are at Millburn train station. I think this will I'm sure there've been no accidents there so far, but I used to commute and there's been a close call a number of times, and hopefully this will avoid any kind of issues in the future. I know there might be some issues around who's got responsibility for making that overhead pass. Is it the state? Is it the NJ Transit people, or is it the town? I'm not sure what the solution is, but you guys, know much more about this than I do. I hope you can find a solution that can work. I do not suggest causing pedestrians to go all the way to the light and then cross the street, because for two reasons. One, you obviously have to get down, go all the way to the light, then cross and then come back to the garage. Pedestrians will unfortunately always take the easy way out. So while we might try to enforce this by putting some kind of a barrier and making people walk a little further to cross the street, I don't think that's going to be a long-term feasible solution. I hope we can find some other solution that can make this work and create more safety both for cars and pedestrians. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Carlin, by all means.
Thank you very much. Al Carlin, 246 Millburn Avenue, apartment D, Millburn, New Jersey. I've been a resident for almost 29 years. Carlin, speaking about the Township Committee Rules of Procedure. Question, were any committee members consulted with the drafting of the procedure? Were any of the township people, anyone here consulted concerning the drafting of the procedures presented by the attorney? If not, why not? Other township municipalities seek guidance from their residents when you have procedures of this nature. This is thought. There was a mention, I think, that Robert's Rules of Order were archaic. I think that's the word. No, they're not archaic. Not according to the New Jersey State Bar Association. Robert's rules are just guidelines. That's all. That they are just guidelines to avoid chaos. We just don't want people throwing things at each other. We want to have motions. That's all. Just a motion here and you second the motion. That's all they are. The guidelines are by the state. That, as you know, everyone knows that. It's very, very simple things. Please table the motion. Let's go back to the community. Just something very, very simple. I remember there was a great meeting that I saw on Zoom concerning Taylor Park. It was fabulous. Really, some really bright people got together and put things together. And I said, my goodness, there are some really pretty smart people in this town. Not me, but really smart people. Who will be the parliamentarian? Okay, there's a parliamentarian. Will the attorney who wrote the procedure be the parliamentarian? Okay. Will another attorney be the parliamentarian? Will there be a separate parliamentarian? Robert's Rules of Order was updated in 2020. I got it over there. You don't want to read it. There are technicalities. We don't want to go through technicalities. That's what I'm saying. It's just things like this. I've spoken to several South Mountain residents. That's where I am. And they happen to agree. Some of them are really bright people with all types of PhDs and things like that, even doctorates. But please just consider this. The people want to live in a democracy, and a democracy means that people get a say in their government, and that's all we want. That's what I would like. I see what happens in Washington. You see demonstrations in front of the Supreme Court because people are not, they feel that it's minority rule. We do not want minority rule. We want majority to get their say. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Thank
you,
I
Mr.
just like
Carlin.
to be heard and spoken to.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
not against anyone, believe me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carlin. Jesse, do we have anybody online? Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, Annette Romano, 15 Cypress Street in Millburn. I'd first like to thank Jay Morial for his comments last week regarding bringing a gun safety initiative into our community. We had a great conversation on Saturday, and I hope that he continues to work with our police department in providing gun safety and education to our residents. We talked about how other towns are giving gun owners locks free of charge, along with other initiatives. So I offer my assistance to you, Jay, if you want to pursue that even more. I'd also like to extend a huge thank you to the overwhelming generosity of our residents that helped to fill the bus with items for our pantry on Saturday. I am grateful to our community that continues to support the pantry, and a special shout out to Anna Milan, the town social worker. Anna is a tremendous asset to our residents. She's always available to support those in need in a number of different ways, and she's been such a great help to me in supporting the pantry. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Romano. Jess? Thank you.
Good evening, Dominique Urso, 514 Millburn Avenue, Short Hills.
Good evening.
Thank you for your time and consideration. Following comments on behalf of my parents, as they're a little busy during dinner hour at our restaurant. I start in saying, Mayor Miggins, hello. If you would do me the honor to please ask Mr. Wasserman the following questions, please. Number one, what was Explore Millburn Short Hills? Why were they a sponsor of former Mayor Lieberberg's pre-COVID, pre-SID scheduled Founders Day event on Saturday? I asked Mr. Wasserman during the Step the Bus event, and all he answered was not much of an answer except for setting up the event. Number two, was there a contribution made by Mishbo to be a sponsor? Concerning no answer from Mr. Wasserman, considering he is on the Board of Trustees. Isn't that correct? Number three, why haven't recipients from the email sent last Tuesday with pictures regarding the power washing cleanup? 0 out of 7 recipients have yet to respond, including Mr. Wasserman, Mr. McDonald, and Mr. Molman. The SID provided power wash to UMA, leaving a dirty, muddy mess behind only to be tracked into businesses and washed into storm drains. Not a positive addition to promote attention to the business community. Number four, why is all the added attractions made by the SID, such as the Main Street closures, games, murals, music, and more, being paid by the majority of 4 districts, but only benefiting the downtown area? Number five, why isn't Mrs. Prupus screaming like she did in 2018? Who can answer these questions, Mayor? Who's responsible to pay for the water usage of the fire hydrants? Who owns the fire hydrants? Are they property of the township or county, or are they privately owned? Does anyone have access or use of fire hydrants? Is it a permit required for the usage? For the first time in ages, I attended the street fair. Sadly surprised to see more stores closed. And more importantly, I'd like to say thank you to the DPW gang for all of their hard work and efforts to put into that event. And lastly, I would like to thank Ms. Davitt for her professionalism in assisting us with potential tenants and a quick response to zoning questions. For years, we have been responsible landlords walking around our potential tenants through the process prior to the SID assessment. I proudly announce that a new addition to UMA, all without the help of any realtor or SID. Why are we paying SID executive $106,000 annually to withhold information from property owners and cherry pick table invitations and not being inclusive to the entire community and property owners? What work was performed in conjunction with the bill items list for BPM for Marzini and Falcone? What activity has been? To my knowledge, there has been no activity and still waiting for the township to come mediate. Thank you and see you during public comment.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, Sarah Sherman, 42 Greenwood Drive. I
Good
have
evening.
just a brief question. In the agenda packet, There is a reference, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. There's a resolution that refers to donations to the town. And I tried to find the appropriate state statute that I think it might be covered by it, and I could not find it. So if you would please explain that before you vote on it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Jean Pasternak, 342 Hobart Avenue. I'd like to ask each TC member, are you supportive of debates with township committee candidates prior to the June 7th primary and prior to the November election? I'd like to comment on Jay's persistence and Dave Cosgrove as well, pushing this body through Alex McDonough to organize those feedback sessions on overlay zones for the residents. I think without their unrelenting requests, it's doubtful that these would have occurred. Public comments and public input does matter. The other thing I'd like to comment on is his suggestion, Jay's, of having a limited period of a second comment time, limited to 2 minutes, or the old new business types of conversations that are going on. I just don't understand why anyone would say no to that. I'd also like to ask a few questions about the agenda and comment on the meeting on affordable housing. Last week, there was no time for public questions or recording of the feedback and comments, particularly for those who were not present. Will that information be summarized and included? Because it seems that people have no idea what the feedback was from the public, and that was the whole point, I thought. When will the responses to all outstanding public questions relating to the fair share housing settlement, including but not limited to the increase in our RDP number between April 2018, July 2021, the environmental studies related to DPW remediation, I think they were supposed to be posted. I'm not sure what happened there. Alex maybe can comment on that. The metrics that were used to select this particular DPW developer, the increase in overlay densities, how that happened, and supporting the traffic studies and the cost of relocating the DPW operations. When will we have that information, and when will those questions be answered? I have a question also related. Can the township committee members, do they have the right to seek a motion for reconsideration of the fair share settlement agreement and the right of residents to be heard on this reconsideration agenda issue? I'd also like to know on resolution 22-115, why is the outside labor counselor bill list summary not broken out like other retained professionals? How did also on 22-115, how did the township fund the library field lighting, Mayor Miggins' pet project, the 9/11 memorial, and the flex parking removal projects? And could you comment on what in resolution 22-119, what Essex Street property is the municipality seeking an outside consultant to conduct a remedial investigation on? Could you also talk about the Eyes in the Sky resolution 22-125, expand on what's written there? Where will these, maybe you can't identify the specific locations, but can you give us a little bit more detail on what is going on with that? And are these locations going to be within the SID? It does seem in 2599-22 that the fire department rank and file employees are excluded from that resolution. And I'm not sure why. When will we actually get the amended TC meeting policy and procedure, municipal legislation that was discussed at the last meeting? Will that be out for a draft, or will it be posted? Will the public get a chance to look at it before it's voted upon? And when will the municipality resume rebroadcasting of the public meetings and forums on the township's public access cable channel? Those are my main questions. I think I got everything else. Oh, is there going to be any status update on the approved developments at Chatham Road, the Silverman Project, the Wells Fargo Beehive Project, and the Annie Says inclusionary housing projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pasternak. Okay. Hello.
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 Hi, it's Vicky Powell at 358C Millburn Avenue, Shala's
evening.
Gift Boutique. Hello, everyone. I
Hello.
just wanted to elaborate more on what Richard had mentioned about Girls Night Out. It's a really fun event. We haven't had it for a very long time. We've been working very hard, the committee and Explore, to bring a fun experience for everyone to come and socialize in some of the districts. We have a lot of synergy with other districts, working with downtown districts. So it's a very nice synergy with all the businesses working together to bring a great event. It's rain or shine. We're having music, DJs, palm reading. You can stilts. It's just a fun event, and we want the community to come down and support us. We really worked very hard. If you can't come to that event on Friday, we are also having some raffle prizes that are it's going to be a taste of the 5 districts of Millburn Short Hills that you can enter to win. If you go to exploremillburn.org, you can, under Girls Night Out, under events, you can see the rules and how to participate and how to enter. But it's a great time. And I wish everyone will come and support and come to the downtown and the upper districts in the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Jesse? Before I close public comments, is there anyone else in the room who hasn't had an opportunity and would like to?
I just want to thank you for letting everybody speak and not interrupting. That's very gracious of you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I will now close public comment. Would any of our professionals or committee members like to address any of the comments that they heard this evening? Ms. Egla?
Sure. Why not?
Okay.
To Mr. Carlin, we were not consulted before Mr. Carney wrote the new rules of procedures. As you know, I did not agree with a couple of things on there, so I hope they're not going to be put in as and to you, Ms. Pasternak, there should be a second comment section. Absolutely, positively. I like the suggestion, maybe make it 2 minutes. As I said last time, it should just be for new things that were brought up, not to rehash what was brought up in the beginning of the meeting. I'm not afraid to have a second comment period. Yeah, we should reconsider the fair share housing agreement at 9 Main Street. I think that if we had enough information and we really thought it out, it's a terrible idea, as we will feel. It's a segregated community by income. About the dog parks, we have 2 large dog parks in South Mountain Reservation, one for large dogs, one for small and medium-sized dogs. I don't know what the upkeep costs. You know, Millburn pays a lot of money into Essex County. I don't know if we have the acreage and the ability to have that in Millburn Short Hills. It took me 5 years to get us to approve dogs on leashes in Taylor Park. That was 5 years. And I'm thrilled, and I know that has worked out fine. There's no poop on the paths. Everyone is very respectful. And the last thing, Mr. Ankar, I think he left.
No, he left.
No, I think he might have been responding. I did respond to his email. The pedestrian crosswalk. I don't know how we could put a raised crosswalk there. It's a very narrow street. And I think the problem is the way the deck was designed. The pedestrians come out in the middle of the street and where the staircase is. And I think it goes back to crosswalks and stop signs. We have to have some self-responsibility as pedestrians. Leave for work 3 minutes earlier. I know everyone's in a rush in the morning when the commuting time is crowded. And I think we can do what Maplewood does. They do have the street blocked and you are forced to walk to the crosswalk. There is nothing wrong with that. It's for your own safety. And we have to have some responsibility throughout this entire town as commuters, as shoppers, as parents of our children, teach them to cross at the crosswalk. And that will be part of our PSAB initiative, crosswalks and stop signs.
There is a crosswalk there, right?
No
next
one
to those
wants-
pillars.
they don't want to walk, well, there is, right, it's on the other side of the pillars, which is
And
blinded.
it's dangerous. Yeah.
It is, yeah, and people should really walk to the corner at Essex Street.
I,
don't know.
I have a different perspective on both dog park as well as pedestrian safety for that. I think it's a great idea. Mr. Manglik has come here and sent an email out. I think it's a great initiative. If that is NJ Transit who has to do it, we should work with them. Maybe we can connect the platform all the way till the end of that street and have stair going up that way. I think we should definitely look in that. There's a pedestrian crossing right next to those pillars, and it is invisible to the driver as well as for the pedestrian to cross that road. We are here to make safety possible for pedestrians. So I'm all for it. I think we should look into it, try, even if we have to invest some money in it ourselves. If it doesn't connect to the train station or the platform, which could be NJ Transit, making it, and then we can put that stairs up from the across the street. I think it's a great recommendation. I'm all for it. On the dog park, I know I have a dog too. So if those South Mountain, I don't think there is off-leash dog park around there. There is, you can just take it in the South Mountain.
No,
But-
there is off leash. There's 2 dog parks.
So is that fenced in?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
huge.
But it's not close.
So that's a great. So if that is already there, then it's great. Otherwise, having it in town, fenced park, I think that is also a great idea. I'm going to check it out myself too in the South Mountain. If not, we'll be back again. I think those are great ideas. Keep coming.
Wait, Alex, I'm sorry. When they built the deck many years ago, they did talk about having the top floor of the deck extend to the train line. And if I remember, because I was on the first aid squad, I remember when all that was happening, it was $1 million then. And there's a problem with ADA accessibility, and there was, Mr. Footer, you remember, it wasn't possible for a lot of reasons. So I don't know, you could maybe spend some money investigating it. I don't think it's possible. Well, you're not allowed to talk again, Mr. Footer. I'm so sorry. Send me an email with, and you can help jog my memory. But Alex,
All I'll say, I don't remember the cost. However, I remember there was a conversation at the time of
Yeah.
that deck. Because part of the plans were originally to have a connection, because from the deck directly to the
on the
platform,
3rd floor.
not any stairs or anything like
Right.
that, right? However, there is, as I think everybody is aware, the Millburn train station does not have ADA accessibility. And so I think there's a concern from New Jersey Transit. I mean, this is all a conversation we'd have to have with them, but once that platform gets disturbed in some way, then there has to be ADA accessibility.
And there was supposed to be an elevator put in where the convenience store is put in, and something happened that all of a sudden, the convenience store got this extra space and there's no elevator, which really should be to get people up to the 2nd floor. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think there should be some accessibility.
Exactly. So I guess we could investigate that and have conversations with New Jersey Transit.
I
But
think
Yeah,
we
I think-
should, because there was a woman killed there, right? In that
I
crosswalk.
mean, not that particular one, but, oh, yes,
Yeah,
there was
there
one there,
was.
as well as there was somebody,
Not that long ago.
Not that
Yeah.
long ago. So maybe we should look into something, we should, I think. It's true. The people, I see in front of my office, they drive like bats out of hell.
Yeah, I think this should be a part of what we are doing in Shorters train station.
Look at
Millburn
that as
train
well,
station
yeah.
should be a part of that same study or
Conversation.
same project. It should be the pedestrian safety across both train stations.
there's a big difference in those two, and the only thing I'll say is it's certainly, happy to bring that conversation, that question to NG Transit. But the difference between those two stations is we own one and we don't own the other.
No, another thing is also, we have the similar pedestrian cross, and there's a crosswalk next to middle school. There's a crosswalk on one side of the street, on the other side of the street, there is a pedestrian bridge made that goes directly into the field. So we can do similar to that as well. If New Jersey Transit doesn't allow on the train tracks, which could be the easiest way of extending the train tracks to the end of the road and have staircase going up directly. If not, then we can look into just having a crosswalk across the street ourselves in town. Or not crosswalk, cross bridge for pedestrian. Yeah, to me, I think it's
something to
It's a
look into.
very good thing to look into.
Thank you.
Worth
Sanjeev.
spending time on.
Anything else, Sanjeev?
I'm good, thank you.
And you're finished,
Yeah,
Diane?
thanks.
Ms. Prufus, anything?
Yes.
Thank you.
That area that you're talking about in Lackawanna, I agree that there's there's something to be looked at. I just think it should go to PSAB and that committee. Like,
agree.
I think it should
I
just go
agree,
through the
yes.
channel so that we're not telling Alex right now, but like the gentleman who came should just go to the next PSAB meeting and talk to everybody there and like have them.
Put it on our,
Yeah, and then
radar.
come back, and then if there is like some direction of some assessment or some study.
I think we should look, and this is a great idea, we should also look into increasing the frequency of PSAB meeting. It's once a quarter. They just met
Yeah,
like
well,
last
so
week.
actually, we did last year, and now it's 5 times a year, right?
Correct.
There's 5 meetings, so, because it was once a quarter, and everybody felt that way on PSAB, but nobody wanted it to be like every other month. Just- So they settled at 5. Yeah, they settled at 5, so
Could we send an email then out
But
to
yeah,
PSAP
the
and,
entire PSAB.
and have
let-
them look into this or put
Right,
this
which
on the
doesn't mean they
agenda?
have to wait for the next meeting also
Yeah,
to start talking about it.
I was actually making a comment in this meeting as well. First, he brought it up, the resident brought it up. Secondly, it may be a little bit more of an expensive project that PSAB may not be able to make decision on, but I think if we are open here
Yeah,
to have the PSAB do this, I think that will kind
to
of
look at it.
put a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think certainly what the PSAB can accomplish is taking a look at doing the initial legwork, accident reports, understanding what's happening at
The
that
history.
intersection, the history, right? The pedestrian patterns, things like that.
Great, thank you. Anything else, Ms. Prufus? Thank you.
The dedicated dog park, they do have them in South Mountain Reservation by the South Orange Avenue right off. But if there is space, like I think that we could have one potentially in town. I just say bring it to the recreation committee. And let
Yeah.
them have the conversation
I agree.
of it. The environmental remediation, Mr. McDonald, is that on the website?
Yes.
Can you just let the community know where? On the
Yeah,
website,
so
please?
the full report from VHB for the site investigation of 9 Main Street, or the DPW site, and the portion that is being developed is on the affordable housing page under the 9 Main Street project.
Can I ask you how long it's been there?
It's been there since Friday of last 2 weeks ago.
So it's been on the site for 2 weeks already? Okay, so that's misinformation. Someone stated today that it's not
What?
there.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think part of it is you can just search the website. That's the easiest way to find things too, is because we're not sending out an alert to everyone every time. Like if you're looking for something in particular, just do a search of the website. The search engine on the website is very good, and it will help you find what you're looking for.
Okay.
Is there going to be a discussion about that report for the community where people can ask questions and have like a brief summary or any kind of conversation around it?
Well, I mean, that's not really my decision necessarily, but I think that part of it is part of what I'll answer in terms of my question, the questions that were asked, but is that there's an additional portion of that is being considered tonight, and it was unclear on the agenda, and so I do apologize for that, but that is a remedial investigation of the 9 Main Street project. I don't know why it's stated Essex Street, but it is the 9 Main Street project. That there are 2 areas, after looking at 11 areas of concern on DPW site, there are 2 areas of concern that need additional investigation. And those would undergo a remedial investigation by VHB, who is our contracted LSRP for the site, to find out what the limits of that those contaminants that were found, which are again outlined in that report that is on the website.
So I remember last fall, it took forever to get the environmental results. Is there a timeline? Are we giving them a date by which we need this done by?
No, not particularly, because again, this is a remedial investigation, which they're taking small samples in multiple locations to test the limits. And so whether they get, a hit on, I think, whether it's a particular contaminant. So we actually expedited the testing in the last round, in the fall. And so this is not expedited testing and results, but, I don't think it's going to take an inordinate amount of time. I think we're
Did they
talking
give
about
you any
3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Also, is there an update on any of the properties that were listed in terms of Silverman, the former Wells Fargo, or the
Annie
former
Says.
Annie Says? Like, do we have any updates for the community on those developments?
So Wells Fargo, as far as I understand, or Beehive Properties is, I think some people have probably seen that they've cut down the trees in and around the site. I think they also have a little bit of work that they need to do in terms of site clearing. But I think you can probably anticipate demolition of that building and site work starting over the summer. And then as far as Silverman goes, it's been very quiet. I have not heard, the only thing that has occurred is that they came before the Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board to present their pedestrian plan for both during construction as well as after the building is built.
Oh, I forgot to mention that. Thank you.
And
And Annie says,
Nothing.
nothing, right? Nothing.
lastly, I just wanted to address the comment that was made about the fair share housing settlement, and if we could go back to deliberate it again. And we had this conversation back in January, and there wasn't a consensus. 2 of the members of the TC wanted to do it, 3 didn't, and so it's not happening. So it potentially could be done, but it's not going to be done. And that is, that's it. I'm done.
Thank you.
For questions.
Responses. Mr. Wasser?
Thank you. I would also echo my support for a dog park in town. I think that the current dog park, is far. It's not really walkable for residents. People are dog lovers. I have a dog for many, many years. I think it would be great if we could investigate it. Maybe we could ask the rec department or the rec committee to look at our limited park space and see if there's a small space there. A space there. And also in terms of bridge at Lackawanna Place, I think that would be great to investigate that. I would also be supportive. I think that when the parking, when the parking facility was installed, I think it could have been done a little better. So maybe it's an engineering question. Maybe we can take another look at that. I think that would be really beneficial. And also in time I do want to answer Ms. Urso's question. When we were working at Founders Day, there were many volunteers. I was one of them setting up. Mrs. Urso asked me, about the financial contribution of the SID, which I didn't know. I think that they're going to get back to her on that. But I do want to thank Explore because they spearheaded Founders Day and really put in a lot of work to make that a success in terms of organizing it, stuff the bus, the music. There was wonderful music, a band there that they set up, and I don't think that would have happened without an Explore being in the town. So I just wanted to point that out. And in terms of 100% affordable, I just want to remind people that this was mandated. I don't want to keep a broken record, but as somebody that was at the negotiation table, this was mandated by Fair Share, mandated by the court. And again, one of our concerns was losing our immunity if we didn't go along with this. And I think that would have potentially cost the town millions of dollars. I'm not an attorney, but that's my opinion.
Wait, Mr. Wasserman, you're just saying that fair share housing mandated 100%, or you offered that in your negotiations as one of the settlement ideas? They didn't tell us, did they, Ms. Megan?
They wanted, and we talked about this, Ms.
We
Eckler.
talked about this a few times.
I know, but we can keep
Over and over
No,
again.
no, we could keep repeating. It's all good. As far as the RDP number, so we can go to that for a second. We've discussed the RDP number. That might have been what we wanted as a town. But that wasn't what the Fair Share Housing thought the RDP number was, and that was back and forth and back and forth. So when you were in negotiations, the first year that you were on it, Ms. Eglo, and it kept being delayed and delayed. Every time it was delayed, a new developer came and enjoined the lawsuits. This is what happens. So that's how Andy Says got involved. That's how, and the big argument was the property out on JFK, Woodmont, that Mr. Wasserman and I fought vigorously to not have happen, because we feel that it's too near the watershed property and it's on conservation land. So that's a big argument. So the more it delayed, the more other people enjoined in lawsuits. So that's why the RDP numbers are different. That was a negotiation process, as were the process with overlay zones. So the Fair Share Housing people insisted on a certain amount of housing, and then there was negotiation with overlay zones. So you could have not had, for instance, Mr. Moriali talked this evening about the B2 overlay zone. I think it was 19 units, what, 18 units, right? If memories are okay, 18 units for that overlay zone. If the 75 units was not put on the DPW site, then that B2 overlay zone instead would have been about 50 units an acre. So there was negotiation back and forth within many hundreds of hours of negotiation going back and forth between higher overlay zones or lower overlay zones. If you have a higher overlay zone, it makes the property more valuable. If you have a lower overlay zone, the property is not as valuable. So the whole goal was to do the lower overlay zones. And as far as the 75 units, well, everybody up here voted for it. So you can change your mind, but you can't change your vote. So
Well,
this,
you Ms. Miggins, you absolutely can change your mind. So just.
you could
can say
change
what
your
you
mind,
want,
which is what I said,
and you
but
can
you can't
also-
change your vote.
Well,
'cause
we
the
could
vote's
have-
already
We could have
been.
changed your vote. If
Nope.
there was one more person who wanted to have a re-vote, we could.
And it would have
And
cost,
you're personally, you and Committeeman Minyayak and Committeeman Wasserman
correct.
are making that decision for 5 people. That we cannot change our vote.
But that's
So
what we
you
do.
are saying.
But that's consensus, Ms. Prupus.
Right, but I
That's
just
what
want to
it
be very
is.
clear. You can't say that we can't do it because we can.
No,
We can,
you just don't have the
we can
majority
change our
to do
vote,
it. That's right.
but the
That's right.
majority of this board
Does not wish
does
to.
not wish to. So just be very clear.
That's right. They don't
and
wish to because
accurate
they
about what's
don't
happening.
wish to
Saying it
cost
you,
the
right,
town.
say it
They
to
don't
you.
wish to cost the town millions and millions and millions of dollars and
Loss of
lawsuits and
immunity.
loss of immunity and a loss of immunity.
And Mayor Miggins, what the Annie Says building,
Yes,
we are talking about 40 or 50 RDP. Annie Says building, we have about 2 acres in there.
it's 30 for the fair share. There's
It's 30.
150.
But
150.
there is 2 acres. How
Correct.
many apartments are we making?
150.
150 on
Did
2
you have the
acres.
choice to reduce it?
No.
If I remember correctly, we actually put forward and builder even said yes to it, that
Yeah.
we can do senior living there
We
instead
wished.
of the full family.
Yeah,
And they, affordable
Age
housing
restricted,
came back
yeah.
and said, nope.
Nope.
We are going
They
to
wouldn't
have
do the senior thing.
they wouldn't have it.
So
They wouldn't.
I think we keep bringing this up only to open up. Any builder that came in while the negotiation happened, everybody got their buildings in there.
That's right.
Everybody did. So we keep repeating it, and yes, we should keep repeating it because the question keep getting repeated. And we should keep repeating our answers,
Mhm.
but we have discussed this so many times, and everybody forgets. We are the taxpayer too, and we are the residents of the town as well. So whatever guys are getting impacted too. I have 2 kids in schools in the district. I would hate for a person to live in that building and say, hey, you're from that project. But guess what? It is going to happen, and it is
So
not going that
revisit,
way.
Mr. Vinayak,
Ms.
revisit if you
Eglo,
hate
I'm
it.
not done. I'm not finished. You can wait
I
your
will,
turn
I will.
and
wait
then
my
talk,
turn.
okay? So I am equally being facing the same thing that any other resident does. And people call misinformation. Misinformation always keep coming back, where hundreds of questions get asked, you get answered, and then again, a twisted question get asked. So I'm seeing it from outside as well as from inside, and I see it, what goes on here.
Well,
What goes on here, not as far as the TC goes,
Right.
what goes on as far as people who have been asking the same question over and over again, get the answers and keep getting the questions again. So I actually, whatever I voted for, and I stand behind it.
Me too. Me
Thank
too.
you. Ms. Eglu, all yours.
Okay, so you are being impacted. You would hate to see people living in there, then you could have the opportunity to be a third vote to revisit it. We had a wonderful plan that was presented by L&M that included market rate value, and I've said this before, so when people walk in the lobby door, like they will at the Upton or Annie Says or Wells Fargo, nobody knows which apartment they're going into. And Ms. Miggins, when I was on the committee negotiating years ago, we were specifically advised by the planner then never to do 100% affordable housing, ever, ever, ever. But wait, I'll pull this, Mr. Vinayak, my turn. As far as Woodmont, they approached us and you brought it up for at 125 units. And you didn't want to affect the watershed. It is not a given that they're going to get approval by the EDP, or EAP, whatever the initials are. And now they're getting
DEP and the EPA.
okay, now they're getting 195. So for what you two did in your negotiation, you own it. You have done this. Wait, no, I'm not finished.
We
Megan.
had no choice.
You
I have a
did have,
question.
wait,
No, we
You
had
had
no
a
choice.
choice, Richard. You
Hold on.
had a
We
choice.
didn't want it, we
Richard, let
didn't
me
want
tell
it
you
to, listen, we didn't
Stop.
want to do
No,
it,
no,
and
no.
you're the one that wanted to negotiate with them
Miggins.
first.
Don't tell me to act like a lady. We're gender free here. We'll talk about the pride flag later. Mr. Wasserman,
We're not.
I
changing it.
question your judgment on many things. Okay, that was disrespectful. Everyone knows. Okay, you can. We have an opportunity, and Mr. McDonald, you know, I've known you now 6 years. You are my friend. There was a secondary plan that should have been brought to the attention. And
You
it's
keep
still
bringing that
there.
up. I don't know what plan you're talking about.
And
Wait,
even if-
hold
And
on,
even if there's a plan.
hold on a second. You continually bring up that there is some other plan. What plan are
You were
you
in the
talking
room
about?
when L&M presented the other plan that had the full DPW to removing, and Mr. Perry
Right, and
even
we
said,
said, hold
we're
on.
almost moving the entire DPW anyway. Let's have a plan, a comprehensive plan that looks to the future of what we're providing for this community.
Miss Egler, hold on one second. L&M presented, there were, just for history lesson here, folks, there were 10 RFQs. And out of those 10 RFQs that Ms. Prupus and I interviewed, that went whittled down to 4 RFPs, which were requests for proposals. And out of those 4 RFPs, Ms. Eglo and myself sat in on all the meetings with the 4 companies. 3 of the companies were compliant. The 4th one wasn't compliant and gave this major plan. And we said, no, that's not what we wanted. We asked for this 75 unit plan,
I'm
correct?
having a
Is
little
that,
bit- I'm having a little bit of anxiety attack. This is very upsetting to me.
but is that correct? If that's correct, so then help me to understand where this other plan is. I'm missing the other plan.
It was their plan.
No, but hold on,
I'm
I'm
gonna
just,
help you because I just feel like what she's talking about is that other proposal that you said was non-compliant, I think was visionary. Okay, so we can have different
sure,
views, right?
right.
And that is what she's speaking of. So there was like another idea that I don't know if is that public now? Like, can people see those?
So
four
that's my
things?
question. So then, Mr. McDonald, you went back to L&M. I just want to be clear, hold on one sec, non-compliant. You went back to them and asked them for the original
Scope.
scope
something.
for
They
the-
went
this-
above and beyond the
this
scope.
75
they
unit,
had
and we,
more.
excuse me. And they then gave us the 75 unit plan that we asked for. Is that correct? You had to go back for a couple iterations on that, and then we got that.
Just once. and-
Okay,
and
so then we
yes, they
did get that.
provided that for the
Okay.
interview portion.
Okay. Yeah. And then there was consensus to have RPM come in.
That occurred, in a closed session. It was discussed and there was consensus among the committee.
Okay,
And let me add in there, the visionary plan that we keep talking about, or Ms. Eglo talks about, and Ms. Prupus just added it. These were the 2 visionary plans that they both agreed that they are visionary, but the other three voted it down. So yes, RPM came in and LNM, which did not submit the plan as required or asked for in the first place, was rejected. So
Okay.
I have put in so many things forward. When they get rejected, I shut up. Okay, we'll bring it up next time. Maybe the mind changes. But here, all I see is keep bringing that same thing over and over again when 3 votes have already said no.
But so Mr. Minyak, she just I think that the only thing that she wanted was to have the community see it too. That was it. And just so that it wasn't just 5 people making the decision or having a vote, but the entire community thing. And she's not even here, so I think we can.
I know, but what
Move this
is there
conversation
another, no, I have a question. Was there another plan that we didn't see?
She's talking specifically,
I'm-
she's talking
I'm-
specifically about.
I'm
that
asking, I'm
proposal.
not speaking to you, I'm asking Mr. McDonald. Was there a specific plan that we didn't see?
There was one that was provided to me unsolicited after the fact, after the committee had already made their decision.
Okay,
And so I did not forward that on to the committee.
so there
I'm
was
just,
a,
but also I would just like to point out that like any of these RFPs are available through Oprah. We did not post every single RFP on the website. We posted RPM, who was selected by the committee.
so then my question is, if there was another plan. You had access to it. You did not give us access to it. Is that correct?
I did not, and I also emailed L&M and I made them aware that I did not provide that.
Because the decision was made.
Correct, and because it was made and the plan was not asked for at that point.
And if from the L&M presentation that I saw, they were talking about the entire DPW site that would get made or apartment building will get made. Where would you put DPW in? And then what will happen from 2025 to 2035? We are in this situation because we didn't do anything in the past. Any builder that came in to the negotiation, they were all granted the buildings they were asking for. So now again, from 2025 to 2035, we need to focus there right now in proactive way. We can't just be reactive again to the game and let builders dictate and tell us what to do. So this keeps coming up and I don't know.
I agree. I guess my last question to you is, Ms. Eglo keeps bringing up this other plan, this third plan. It was sent to you, Mr. McDonald. And since you didn't share it with us, I have to wonder, how did she get a copy of it when none of us got a copy of it?
I'm not gonna speculate on that. I'm not sure.
Oh my God. Where did she, yeah, that's the right question. Where did she get that
How
information
did-
from?
Ms. Eglo got a copy of a plan that none of us else had a copy of. And how did she know about it?
Unsolicited.
Unsolicited. Because I had no knowledge of it. So if there's a third plan and you didn't get it, and you didn't get it, and you didn't get it, and she had it, how did she get it?
Maybe she went to L&M and asked for it. I mean, I don't know,
Oh,
but
I
or
don't think,
maybe, I have no idea.
I don't think
But
that,
I'm
I would
pretty
just
sure
move
during
on.
this whole thing that L&M was probably watching all of our things and knew the conversations we were having. You didn't go back to L&M at all.
no,
I did not, no, not after the initial ask for the 75 units. Yeah, I had given them a call at one point and I said, hey, there's a possibility, but I never went
So
and
you went
asked
back
for
and
the
said,
doc-
there is a possibility.
Right, that
for
I will contact you, but I never contacted.
and we never, so I guess my question is, and we don't know this because unfortunately Ms. Eglo's here, were there side conversations going on with that? We're not supposed to be talking with them, with these developers?
Why weren't you supposed to, you're on the subcommittee?
Because why would you, I would not, I would go through the business administrator who taught, I didn't talk to anybody. That's why we have our business administrator to handle all that and to discuss things with them. And
Well,
You
let's
know,
not
that's-
make
you-
assumptions that she did that because she's not sitting here and I don't know that she did that.
right, no,
So
I
let's
don't. I'm
not
just
make-
asking
I
the
suggest we
question.
move on this conversation to another
Good
topic.
idea.
Yeah, but it's just
and-
something to know.
And
Good
drop
idea.
this completely, I guess. We don't
Yeah,
have to
it's
keep
not gonna-
coming back to it.
Yeah,
It's.
I got
something- It's definitely not gonna be dropped completely.
Well, then you can keep talking about this. Then that's fine, Mayor Megan. I
Well,
was
I'm
just trying to support Ms. Eglo because she's not here.
she's not here, but it would be a good question to know. How did she come to know about a third plan that no one else knew and that you didn't share with us, Alex? I'd like to know that. And then,
But how would Alex know?
Yeah, I mean,
Alex,
again, I'm not gonna speculate on it. I think the point has been made, but I think like, again, she could have had a conversation with them. I don't know, but I think it's just,
Right, which happens all the time. I mean, when there were conversations that I remember that Cheryl had with builders and the mayor like knew what some buildings were happening and other people I sat with different developers. That happens all the time and that's fine. So I would like for you not to like make this whole big thing in accusations that Diane did something wrong.
I didn't, all I'm
It
asking is
seemed,
the
it seemed
question.
like you were
No,
framing it with all your questions, like,
It's quite,
I just wanna know how she got a copy of
I
that.
think,
Like, it was pretty apparent that that was the direction
it's
that you were
good to
going in
know
and she did
that.
something wrong. I don't think she did anything wrong.
nobody said she did, but it would be good to know how she got the information when nobody else had it and Alex didn't share it with
well,
anyone.
and I think also, just to be clear too, like, multiple times it's been brought up that I'm hiding stuff on my computer, and quite frankly, like, that doesn't feel like, so I just want, like, I wasn't.
But I would
Just
love
wanted
to
to
see,
say.
I would love to see that. So
Sure.
can I get a copy
Absolutely.
of the third thing?
Absolutely.
I would just love to see it because I would love to see it.
Okay.
I will
We're
happily
trying to
share.
figure out how you got a copy of something when nobody else had a copy of it. And we're like, how did
Okay,
had
I
a
can tell
third
you.
copy?
I can tell you. It wasn't a secret. It's there. Alex, I'm not throwing you under the bus. It's in your computer. I found out about it from the company. And I came into you on a Friday and I said, Alex, is there the redrafted plan from L&M? You said yes. It was a week later. I said, where is it? You said it's in my computer.
Correct.
And I said, why wasn't this shared a week ago with the subcommittee? And that plan should have been shared, even though it was out of the scope. As Sarah said, it was more visionary. It was more for the long-term health and benefit of this town. I am very emotional because I do love this town. Are politicians allowed to cry? I feel what we're doing is just an injustice. It's wrong for so many reasons. And it was because, I believe it was, I said, Fran Feld was the first one to bring this up as a former social worker in the city. She said, this is not what we should be doing. And I was reading an article in the obituary of the New York Times several weeks ago now, and it was a gentleman at the doctor for the St. Jude. And he was asked by Danny Thomas, to come down from Albany to head St. Jude. This is in the 60s. And he said, I will come on one condition, that St. Jude is not segregated by race, by religion, by ability to pay. And Danny Thomas said, that is what we're gonna do. And it made me realize what we're doing in Millburn after decades of fighting segregation. Millburn is building a building in 2022 that is segregated by income. And Mr. Morreale, we've become friendly. You said, well, the enclave is segregated. Yeah, it's segregated by wealth. So is Short Hills. But it's not a stigma to be segregated by wealth. It is a stigma to be segregated by low and lower income. I feel we can go back to fair share housing. We own our community. We should own our community. We can be independent of the demands putting on us by Governor Murphy and Essex County. They're out to win. And Maggie, I know you brought Beth McManus on. We lost Paul Phillips, who was so against, I'm not saying he was the best planner. Things happen, things change. But he advised us for years never to do what's being done now. And he knew Millburn for years. Yes, it is wrong and it doesn't have to happen. We can go back to fair share housing and show them this other plan. When we had that design, that survey's out, you know, Ms. Megan, people didn't want the Rose Garden to be moved. We listened to them. We listened. The community doesn't even know there's another idea out there. And Mr. Vinayak and Mr. Wasserman and Ms. Miggins, you are owning this for this town, for the evermore. And it's not too late. I am asking we find out from our attorneys how we go back and revisit this. It's not too late, because you love when people move back to town. What you want them to move back to a beautiful community. So I apologize for getting upset, but this is how I feel, and it is not too late. There are people in the community who are paying attention, who don't like what we're doing. And the traffic on Main Street, you haven't even discussed how cars are gonna get in and out from one fire truck. Just the cars getting up and down from Main Street, up South Mountain to Essex Street, Millburn Avenue. We don't know about the schools, and none of this has been done, and we're committing to RPM, giving them this property. It's
Thank you,
wrong.
Diane. Thank you, Diane. Okay, did anyone else have any other comments from the committee?
There was this question asked about the donation, I think before we.
Sarah Sherman had asked, yep, yep.
Resolution,
Yeah,
if you
Yep.
could explain that.
If I may, I'd like to address that.
Yes, please.
Because the resolutions and this agenda, the
Mhm.
titles don't line up.
Okay,
So
thank God you're here.
for resolution 22-120, that resolution is referring to NJSA 40A:4-39. That's the appropriate statute. And with the other two resolutions, I'm just going to read the titles because the statutes are in the titles. Resolution 22-121 is requesting approval from the Division of Local Government Services to establish a dedicated trust by rider for fees received for electric inspection fees pursuant to NJSA 5227D-124E at SEC. And resolution 22-122 is requesting approval from the Division of Local Government Services to establish a dedicated trust by rider for fees received for certain recreation programs by the Board of Recreation Commission pursuant to NJS, that should be NJSA 40:12-1 at SEC. So those are the resolutions in your packet.
And we have to change that.
Could you summarize that answer? I'll give a brief overview.
Okay.
On the agenda, it's just highlighting the wrong part of the statute there. The actual resolution is reading correctly. But there's three trust funds that we're approving here. You're allowed to apply. Actually, we're not approving. We're approving us to apply for these trust funds. And that statute that allows us to apply for trust funds is NJSA 40A:4-39. There's various statutes where you can point to certain purposes for a trust fund, recreation, donations. There's dozens of those, and you can also apply for basically any reason that you want, and the state will then approve or not approve those that purpose. So the statute that we're using to apply for these is the dedication by rider, which is 40A:4-39. These are trust funds that we've had for a while. We had our budget review. The state does not see that these are specifically approved in our list of approved trust funds. I would argue that they are, but the state, sometimes it's easier just to pass what they're asking you during the budget process. So, electrical inspections, we have approved construction inspections, which I would include as electrical. We have various donations approved, and the rec commission was approved, not specifically the trust fund they're saying. But anyway, that's approving. That's what these are approved. Recreation, which we've been running, electrical inspections, and donations. Thank you.
So I can read it. Okay, great. Awesome. Consent agenda items. So resolutions 22-115 through 22-125. Right,
Yes.
okay, let's get there.
So
May I have a motion to approve 22-115 through resolution 22-125, which are listed on the consent agenda.
so moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Prupus,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now have Resolution 22-126, Amendment of Introduced Budget. Are there any comments from the committee in regards to Resolution 22-126? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve Resolution 22-126?
Motion?
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thal Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Benayak, you're scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2598-22.
I present for consideration on ordinance entitled ordinance number 2598-22, calendar year 2022. Ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank NJSA 40A45-14. Tonight is the time set for the public hearing and final passage as it advertised in accordance with the law.
I declare the hearing open.
Okay,
Anybody with raised hand?
There's two hands there, but I
Are
don't think
there?
that they're, they've been up there. I think that they were.
Okay, go ahead, Sanjeev.
I move that this public hearing be closed and the ordinance be adopted on final reading, and that the township clerk be directed to publish the ordinance by title
Mhm.
as passed on final reading in accordance with law.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Prupus,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thal Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes,
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now have the 2022 municipal budget public hearing and consideration of adoption. The 2022 budget was introduced by the Township Committee at our April 5th, 2022 meeting. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 22-127, which authorizes the township to read the 2022 municipal budget by title.
I move that resolution 22-127 be approved.
I second the motion of resolution 22-127.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Prupus,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thal Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes,
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes.
Thank you.
I will refer to the full committee for any final comments on the proposed budget. Anyone? Okay.
well, this year we have put in a lot of monies towards the strategic projects and to the infrastructure. That doesn't mean that will happen next year as well. Wherever we saw we had surplus this year, we had put that towards the town infrastructure. So that doesn't mean when next year it comes, this year on the roads, we have increased the percentage. Next year, it may be decreased based on, depending on how much money we have and how much tax collection that we do overall. So that is one thing that I want to kind of get it out there, that don't get used to, or I at least don't want to get used to this kind of budget where there's a lot of spend on the infrastructure for this year. This is a good thing, so
And I
thank you.
think we should point out, most importantly, that we're not raising taxes. And I think that's we've said it before, but I think that's an important point, that another year, no new taxes.
As far as the township goes,
As
yes,
for the
yes,
township
that's
goes.
right, thank you.
So
So
Proud
let me
to
ask you a
support
quick,
that.
I'm sorry, let me ask you a question, Mr. Sanjeev. I know you're in favor of a dog park now and a walkway over Lackawanna. That'd be a pretty big spend. You say that should go into the big infrastructure plans of the future?
That's a valid question and a very good question. And that's why we haven't voted to go ahead and make the park. That was mainly the feasibility and understanding of how much it'll cost. And if the cost comes back and if it is within the means, I'm all for it. I will actually go out of my way and even say yes if it is little stretch. But it all depends on all 5 of us. So if I say yes and you say no and 2 others says no, I'm fine.
It's not that I'm not for those things. I think that big budget infrastructure should go to keeping our town hall, our fire and police departments up to date infrastructure, HVAC, computer systems. I think we have a dog park in Essex County. We can put a barrier up on Lackawanna, and I think our town hall buildings are in desperate need of an uplift and improvement. So if I'm gonna put my vote to major infrastructure projects, that benefits everybody.
And I fully respect that.
Thank you.
Okay, I hereby open the public hearing for any comments on the 2022 municipal budget. Any comments?
There's one.
Did you see one? Did you say
Yeah,
that?
there's a new hand up there.
Okay. Jesse, is there someone online that has a question? You want?
No, you want to present anything or, I mean, we're not.
We're not presenting, we're just,
anything further.
no, if there's questions, correct.
Hello, how are you? I was just unmuted.
Yep,
I just want to confirm that this is questions regarding the budget.
yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. I just didn't want to waste your time, find the wrong section.
Thank you.
All right. So question is, has this board considered allocating a portion of the pedestrian safety budget to improve public safety in lot 14? Will this board request that the portion of the anticipated revenue of the $260,000 in cable franchise fees to be allocated to provide a robust civic participation and keep the entire community educated and informed of municipal government business dealing? Our local access channel has been dark since 2020 and currently status info view, no content scheduled. Don't you think there's enough going on that you can educate in our community? What's the status of the HTTV proposal? And are you considering another company? How is Millburn the only community within the surrounding towns who are not utilizing our local access channel? Isn't that quite embarrassing? Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeffrey Feld, 11 Alexander Lane, Short Hills, New Jersey. As I alluded to earlier this evening, I submitted a very series of questions. I first want to tell the community we should be very thankful for the presentations that we received this year regarding the budget. Since that we had the public forum, I have a few questions, partly based on one of the resolutions that you adopted today, which is 22-123, and the ordinance that you're going to pass later. I think the public should know that the reason there was no tax increase, that we had an extraordinary event this year, that we were liquidating various trusts for the amount of $2,125,000, which will be cascading into the general fund and paying for many of these services. As to the salary ordinance, I've been asking questions, were the rank and file fire department excluded from the ordinance? And I received confirmation today, because they have not entered into a collective bargaining agreement, they were not included in that salary ordinance. However, for purposes of your budget, you are appropriating monies for both police and fire. The amount that's been appropriated for fire, what was it based upon? Was it based upon a proposed agreement? Or I mean, because sometimes you have to reserve monies because you know with your unions, you're going to enter into a settlement. And I don't know, based on the documents that I've received, whether we're figuring out that there is going to be a settlement. We're going to have to pay our uniform fire responders X dollars. Have we taken account of that in the appropriated budget? I don't know the answer to that question, but that's a question I've observed in other municipalities. When the collective bargaining agreement goes down, that you should be reserving monies rather than coming back like 5 years later and all of a sudden saying we had to come back and pay 5 years of salary increases. And I don't know the answer to that question. That's a factual question. I thank the finance department because they have amended the original user-friendly budget. However, since the beginning of this year, and the user-friendly budget does not disclose this, on April 1st, we now know how many tax appeals have been filed this year. There will be subject possibly to a liability that we have to pay. And I think it's time, because I've been heard something very favorable, that the number of tax appeals that were filed, the quantity is very low compared to other years. And I think the public should know that drop. However, two major commercial landlords or owners have filed a lawsuit, and I'm going to tell you the first person to admit this. We're coming to a very novel situation because of American Recovery Act, I think, monies that, and we do, I'm going to tell you everyone now, we have great tax appeal counsel.
Yeah.
John Lloyd is excellent.
Yes, he
I'm
is.
going on the record, he is excellent. But I think the public should understand, we could have a very big liability because both the Short Hills Hilton and the mall, I believe, have filed. And the question is, do we have monies reserved for that potential liability? And to understand that we're coming to a novel situation because of the American Recovery Act situation, which no one has ever dealt with before. Thank you. But I think people to underappreciate the cascading of monies, which was an extraordinary event, and potential with the fire department, which I discovered because of the question of not being on the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Feld. Anyone else?
Yes, hi, I have a couple questions. I had asked, I think, a couple of different meetings, the same question, and it never was really answered, or never was answered. What was the total expense for legal services last year versus what's in the 2022 budget? Can someone please answer that? My understanding is over $1 million was expended on legal services. And I'd like to understand how that's going to compare for next year, given that the retainer amount was increased from, I guess, whatever it was, 100 or 150,000 to 450,000, and then an additional amount was added for just one law firm. Where are we going with the legal expenses? Can you please be transparent about that with the public and let us understand from you exactly how that's being overseen by the township committee and by Alex. My other question is, I would like to understand, Mr. Viniak made the comment that we got in this position because we didn't do anything in the past. Well, I find that also to be very misinforming to the public, in that there was a huge amount, I think, that was acknowledged at the budget presentation coming from the Upton. And the Upton project was one of the huge projects that was put on stream when there was a Republican-run township committee. And it's now generating quite a bit of income for this township. And I think that that doesn't dovetail with what Mr. Viniak keeps repeating and others on this township committee, that, you know, the can was kicked down the road, nothing was done. It's just not true. And I think it needs to be acknowledged. The other question I have is, you talk about infrastructure spend. I'd like to understand what forward planning has been done with respect to the huge, enormous number of developments and the infrastructure needs that are clearly going to come from all of these developments. Just 3 were mentioned this evening: Wells Fargo, Beehive.
Ms. Pasternak, we're talking about the budget. That doesn't have anything to do with the budget. Do you
Yes,
have
it
questions
does.
specific to this budget? No. We're wondering if you have questions specific
Excuse me.
to this
It's
budget.
specific. It is specific.
No,
Allow me to finish.
no.
And then you'll
Just to
get
this
the
budget,
specific
please.
question.
We're just talking about
The
this budget.
infrastructure spend that you discussed that's coming in out of this budget this year, I'm asking, how did that get dovetailed with the enormous amount of developments that are coming on stream? Is that infrastructure spend related in any way to all the developments that are going to be coming on stream? And that's my question. So thank you for letting me finish. And then the last thing
Thank
I'd
you.
like to ask is, we
Thank
did
you.
not get an answer to the question many different times
Could you-
about what and how you funded in last year's budget the library field, the lighting, the 9/11 memorial, and the flex parking. Could you please answer that question?
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Perry Urso, 514 Millburn Avenue in Short Hills. I just have a couple questions about the budget. Number one, I know that we have an anticipated revenue coming from the cable franchise fees in the amount of about $260,000. Clearly, I'm hoping that the township and this committee finds means in taking a portion of this to inform the public. I mean, there's a huge problem going on here as far as keeping your public and the community informed. I mean, there's conversations amongst all of you with the whole fair share housing debacle. And now people are coming forward because they're like, what are you talking about? 75%. So I'm just hoping that you'll take a portion of that $260,000 and put it into the local channel, which is meant for governmental education. And my other question is about the 6% goes to the public library. Can you tell me who is the oversight for the public library? Who do they answer to, their expenditures? Who handles their budget? I know that they're getting 6% of our budget in the township. However, I don't know who's monitoring and who they have to answer to. So if you could be kind enough to answer those questions, and thank you for your time and have a wonderful evening.
Just a correction, it's the library gets 3%, not 6%.
And that is also state statute.
Yes, it sure is.
And there's a board and a director who
Correct,
oversees the operations.
Correct. But it's 3%, just to be crystal clear. That's it. Okay. Do you want to answer those questions, gentlemen, for us?
Yes, I'm just gonna start off with the question regarding the tax appeals.
Yes.
I think part of the answer to that question is yes, tax appeals are down. We are happy about that for 2022. And yes, we are aware that there are two larger players that have filed. And yes, we do have a reserve and are prepared for those types of judgments, which also generally come in multi-year settlements and negotiations. However, we don't know what that might entail, and just wanted to make it clear that we're aware of what's going on with the tax appeals, and certainly have kept our reserves appropriate for that.
What's the percentage we're down? I'm sorry. What percentage are we down, Mr. McDonald? Of appeals from residential appeals?
Yeah, so the new appeals, we had 25 new appeals, which is down sharply from last year, which was 83 new appeals.
Okay. The question on the two major players, I think one of the major player already had that done a year ago. Or is that done this year?
No, I mean, so they filed. So what happens is that when they have to make sure that they're paying their taxes up to a certain point in order to file a tax appeal.
But they filed that
correct.
last year, not this year.
Correct. The Hilton has filed and now has since opened up back in March. So it's still too early to tell exactly what's going to happen with those, but certainly our tax attorney John Lloyd is working on that, and we are aware of that's
right. Thank you.
Some other answers to the questions here. I just want to point out the trust fund reserves that we're canceling. They're not funding general operations. We're not relying on that to get to the 0% tax increase. The 0% tax increase would be there regardless of those reserves. What we did was we took a look at those reserves and thought that they could be spent in better ways, which are an increase to the capital infrastructure and capital plan, and an increase to our debt payment. So we're using those funds to not support general operations, because that would be kind of irresponsible to the long-term health of the finances. We're using them to as kind of a 1-year spend to pay for capital expenses increase this year, and to increase our debt pay down on our outstanding notes. So yeah, that's probably something that will not continue, but we thought it was a responsible decision for this year.
Could you name those couple of funds? If you're
Yeah, it's only really two funds. The major fund is a self-insurance deductible fund. So we pay for lawsuits and certain insurance claims. And then sometimes 6 months, sometimes 3 years down the line, we might get a big reimbursement.
Right.
So a lot of times we'll reserve those funds.
And in the past couple of years or few years, we have not seen that fund used to its capacity. So that's where you have reduced that amount.
Correct.
To
So-
have it, still
correct.
have some cushion in there in case it comes through. So
Exactly,
you've reduced it.
exactly.
Okay,
we're-
and what
we're
is the other one?
The other one is the electrical trust. We take an electrical inspection fees, put it in this trust. It's, again, it's a good thing, but when it gets to a certain point, you only need a certain level of reserves. And we thought it's more responsible to use that money to benefit the taxpayers.
And we're paying a big chunk of the parking deck. Is that so?
Yes, we are.
Right? A big chunk of the parking deck. So we will.
That is from the money we got from the state or federal for
to pay that.
pandemic.
Okay, great.
Because we lost revenue on the parking deck.
Correct.
And we could only use it towards that, so we did that.
Great.
The thing is, whatever reserves we still have this year is not in any way reduced reserve from last few years. We were sitting on the highest reserve ever this year, so we have brought it down to a little bit lower level, but it's still in no way lower than what it is.
Right.
Or what it was.
Correct. Another question was regarding the fire department contracts. So yes, we do budget an increase. It's an estimated increase based on historical negotiations and based on where the negotiations are now. Those budgets, we budget conservatively because you don't know kind of what's gonna happen personnel wise. There's different emergencies, situations come up. So there's always a conservative budget there that we carry forward.
Have you ever been in this situation before where you were not done with the negotiation, but you still went ahead with the budget?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so this is nothing new for you guys.
No,
Not at all.
and it is something that you budget those salary increases based on how current negotiations are going on or how past negotiations have gone on, or what you're seeing throughout the state and what negotiations are happening and what settlements are going at. So, yeah, you can't hold up your budget based on, contract.
And these are negotiations with the unions,
Correct.
Correct.
and this is just like a regular negotiation.
Yeah, this is not uncommon.
Yeah.
And-
Where they can stretch out.
One more question. I heard a number over $1 million in legal fee. I'm in finance subcommittee. I've not seen that number. And there was specifically mentioned about one company. Could you please tell me what is in the legal expenses? What all companies are in there? Is that just one company? Or as far as I know, there is also what we are doing right now with the affordable housing is also from the same pool.
It's.
Right. So almost all or all of our attorneys are paid out of the legal line.
And is that one company?
That is not one company.
Okay,
That
so
is
could you,
various dozens of companies.
and who all are they?
Yeah.
I'll give you a short
At
list.
least give
Yeah.
the services that we get
Right.
provided by them.
So out of legal expenses come a couple consistent things, which are certainly our township general counsel, our labor attorney, our tax attorney. We also have been paying, we have had to pay the special master as a result of affordable housing. That comes out of that. Our special planner for affordable housing, those are all legal expenses based on a legal action. And at times, other things that are based on a legal action must come out of that. So it is certainly not just one firm, but it's multiple different things that are either legal in nature or are directly associated with the lawsuit.
Now, based on what we have done legal in the past, we have done a new formation for this year on a regular legal retainer fee. Do you want to just comment on that too? Because we have been analyzing legal fee as well for a while, and collectively we made a decision last year, which has been put in effect this year. Could you briefly talk about this?
So we've restructured the agreement with professional services to include a retainer for general counsel. That includes a lot of the general stuff, the day-to-day stuff, whether it's ordinances, legal research, police department, different
That we were
different
paying
items,
hourly.
Oprah,
earlier.
different things like that get kind of swallowed into that retainer. And then there's other things that are outside of that retainer, like legal actions against the township. So that is certainly something that we've done as a result of continuing to look at those fees.
Thank you. An excellent job, as always, you've been doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have a question though. I do have a question about this whole thing with the legal fees. So in 2022 or I guess this year, we renegotiated with our law firm, our counsel. So things change where the Oprah requests were concerned as well, right? So we're doing something different where Oprah's concerned. And
They're under the retainer.
they're under the retainer. So there's not as much, because in the past, it seemed we were spending a lot of money on Oprah. There were a lot of, I mean, I asked for the Oprah request just to see how many, and they really seem to keep jumping and jumping and jumping. So we're not putting that on, we're having the council do it, House Council, not as much as on our support staff here. Is that correct?
Well, I think it depends. It really does depend on the Oprah request. However, rather than, but we certainly provide a lot of that to the township attorney, because Oprah is a delicate item at times when you have to respond with a certain amount of days. And, sometimes you have to deny Oprah requests based on vagueness, or, the type of record they're requesting, or that they didn't request a record and that they're only asking a question, which is not Oprah. So it becomes complicated because it's also a sensitive area where people don't necessarily like the responses that they get all the time. And so you do have to involve legal counsel more often on that particular.
And this has been done based on what the regular workload was. So instead of having an hourly rate for them, they've actually provided like a ballpark retainer fee. If we keep jumping ahead on the hours and workload, it may increase or it may decrease depending on the workload for next year.
Sure, because
So-
as I look at these numbers, I continually see Oprah requests continue to climb. I mean, in 2020, there were 410. In 2021, there were 500. We've already had 125 this year. Now, normally an Oprah request is like 1 or 2 items, right? Is that what Christine says? It could be 1 or 2 items.
The run of the mill ones are general, could be pretty fast responses, but some can come in that are pretty laborious. So it kind of runs the
Yep.
gamut.
Okay, all right. It's concerning that. And then can we talk about JIF a second? So that's another piece of the legal cost, right? We have JIF handling now some of our lawsuits.
Yeah, no, actually, and I appreciate you bringing it up, because I wanted to clarify that question, that point, because I think at some points during public comment, somebody stated that we keep going out and getting separate counsel. It's actually quite to the contrary, is that whenever we get an action brought against the township, we immediately bring that action to our insurance company to say, hey, will you cover us? Right? Because that's the prudent thing to do. That's the financially responsible thing to do, is to make sure that you can get, whether you can get covered by your insurance company first and foremost. At times they will say, no, we're not. And then that's when our general counsel will have to pick up that particular litigation or legal action.
Okay.
And then in other instances, they will say, yes, we will certainly provide a defense to the municipality, and here is your attorney.
Right.
And in those examples that were given earlier, that is precisely what happened, is that we went to the insurance company, we asked if they would cover us, they said yes, and they assigned us an attorney. That attorney is covering the township for that.
So the 2 current lawsuits that we have against the township, one is being covered by JIF and one isn't?
Yes.
Okay, one is being covered by JIF. Terrific.
Do we only have 2 current lawsuits?
No.
against- Yeah. I think
Those-
That's correct. I think.
So why don't we then ask which one of Mr. Feld's lawsuits are being covered by the JIF and which one is not?
Well, as I understand it, Mr. Feld is representing Bear Properties. And that is not being covered by the JIF. That is being litigated by our township attorney. Feld versus Township of Millburn is being covered by the JIF. That's being litigated by Cleary and Jacoby, who also happens to be our labor attorney, who also happens to, as Mr. Feld had brought up earlier, be the one that is consulted on the civil rights violations that have been, asked of the township multiple times, whether there is a violation of which we then give to our labor attorney to look at. That is not given to the general township council. That's given to the labor attorney. They will provide a response to those actions that are brought up.
So we're all being sued by Mr. Feld, is what you're saying? We're all being sued by Mr. Feld?
that's-
Okay.
Individually.
And how much, and what is that line item right now?
I don't necessarily have specifics,
So-
and again,
So,
we're.
Mr. McDonald, just to kind of summarize this, we have paid back our debt. We have raised 0 tax township, and we have paid debt. When I'm saying debt, we didn't get that money from our parking lot, but we still ended up being judicious, and whatever money we got, we actually ended up paying a debt based on that. And 0% increase, and then still increasing our infrastructure spending.
Mr. Wasserman, just because I did ask for that information, we've, in that one lawsuit by Mr. Feld, it's been over $40,000. That doesn't include Oprah requests, and he's requested over 845 records within his Oprah requests. So 845
Because I know
records,
we're tracking like line items,
Yeah,
right?
right?
That's 40.
Over $40,000 just in lawsuits. That doesn't include the Oprah request money that we spent. So 845 records he's requested.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And could you also, we're gonna talk about, how is our fund balance looking with the budget?
So I think as Mr. Benayak, Committeeman Benayak had stated, overall, we are a financially healthy community. And we can be thankful for that in spite of a pandemic, in spite of all the things that are going on, that we are a financially healthy community and that we are able to take this opportunity based on what has happened to be able to pay down additional debt, as well as invest more money in infrastructure and provide a zero tax increase.
And think about other things like dog parks.
Perhaps.
I have one question because Ms. Urso brings it up all the time and her daughter brought it up this evening. $260,000 in cable franchise fees. So talk to me about pre-COVID, there was no Zoom. The meetings were recorded, right? And then they were put on YouTube. So everybody has access to them on YouTube.
So I want to be very clear that revenue source is not required to be used for public access. Now, there's a grant that had originally come with that cable franchise agreement that we did we ended up using to purchase equipment and things like that for the channel. But I just want to be clear, because that's been brought up in the past as well, is that you have to spend this money to do this. And we provide an immense amount of information and opportunity to our residents to be connected. Okay. We have an Instagram account, a Facebook account, a Twitter account. We have a YouTube channel. We have Zoom. We have videos all over our website. We have a website. Swift 911. I mean, you have just an immense amount of ways to be communicated with. Email through Swift 911. Even those residents who may not be tech savvy can sign up with their phone number or their email address or whatever it might be. I don't, and I haven't necessarily been able to get this information or understand, but what is the viewership of a public access station? So we've engaged with Hometown TV a few times, and recently I've engaged with them to have them videotape things for us, and we're developing a relationship with them again. There were some things that happened in the past where we were being billed 3-4 months later that we didn't necessarily, we didn't flock back to them, but now we're starting to rebuild that relationship, and so far it's going well, and we will ease our way into that and the use of that station and what is best for and what energy and amount of work needs to be put into something in terms of what we're actually getting and what our community is actually getting out of it. So you have to be careful with that. You can have one person programming that all day and you might have 5 people watching, right? So you have to think about those things. It's not just, it's there, do it.
Tell me, when you had this in the past, was there anybody who came in and said, oh, I didn't hear about this. I didn't know about this? Communication. You can never have enough communication.
Yeah, always. I mean, it doesn't matter, you know? Yeah, absolutely. And I don't mean to be flippant about it, but like, certainly there's always going to be someone who says, I didn't know. Okay. And that's okay. That's fine. However, we communicate in a lot of different ways. And so from our standpoint, being careful about, how much, not only personnel energy we put into something and then money and funding, we have to be certain that you're getting a return on that,
right?
Right.
And so, and I'm not sure that that's the case, because in all this time that I think this subject has been brought up, this is the only complaint. I've asked our senior citizen coordinator, I said, hey, how many of your individuals are upset that there's not much going on in terms of programming when it comes to the station? It's not there. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Legally, what you said at the first statement is legally, it is not the requirement to use that money back. So that is the most important statement. I'm sorry.
No, that's my question is like, what is this grant?
No, this is a
No.
cable franchise fee. So what this is when Comcast comes in and they say, hey, Millburn, we want to be the exclusive cable provider in your community. They provide funding for them.
But every year or?
Yeah, every year.
And so what do we use that money for now?
It's a revenue source. So it just goes into the budget.
So it's not like.
You can
it's
use
just
not
that
necessarily
for
earmarked for
production.
anything.
Earmarked, got it. It's just a
It's
general.
not specifically earmarked, but you could say that's being allocated to our communication costs. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So next time this question comes up, can we repeat the answer?
It's on
I would
tape.
have a suggestion though, because I think that you did this last year and it was helpful. Now we're a whole year later or more, but like you did a little presentation about our legal fees. Kind of a little, and there are some new people paying attention, so maybe that's something that you wanna
Yeah.
educate our community a little bit. just
Slideshow.
about A little.
The
a little-
slideshow last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So that might be helpful too, just to get accurate information to our community.
Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing. We've all responded. May I have a motion to approve resolution 22-128, which authorizes adoption of the 2022 budget?
Motion.
So, Diane,
Oh, I switched my papers. Am I seconding that?
your page,
Oh, I move that resolution 120 adopting the 2022 budget be approved.
I second the motion on resolution 22-128.
may I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Prupus,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thal Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Ms. Thalaglo, you are scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2599-22.
I present for consideration an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2599-22. Ordinance revising and supplementing the salaries and salary ranges of offices and positions in the classified and unclassified civil service positions of the Township of Millburn, County of Essex for the year 2021-2025. The purpose of this ordinance is to amend the salaries and salary ranges of offices and positions in the classified and unclassified civil service positions of the Township of Millburn for the years 2021-2025. Some ranges are established by collective bargaining agreements with unionized employees of the township. Additionally, some agreements do not extend to 2025 and will have no salary range shown for that year. Tonight is the time set for the public hearing and final passage as advertised in accordance with law.
I declare the hearing open. Anybody online, Jess?
I move that this public hearing be closed and the ordinance be adopted on final reading and the township clerk be directed to publish the ordinance by title and pass on final reading in accordance with the law.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
May I have roll call vote, please?
Ms. Prupus,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thal Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Old business, does any committee member have any item of old business they wish to address?
Yes, Mayor, I do.
Yes.
This is kind of old, kind of new, but June is Pride Month, and we, for the past several years, have been raising the pride flag. Even during the pandemic, we had a good turnout, so I'm hoping that the committee will be interested in doing that in first week in June. We can set the date at the next township committee meeting. Alex found the flag in his office, so it's ready to go.
Right, and don't we get the high school kids involved in that
We
as
get the
well?
high school, we get all the paper mill.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a really big turnout. The first year we did it, we had a huge turnout. It was a beautiful day, so let's hope for that.
Okay. Council consensus, of course.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Mr. Vinayak, any old business?
No old business.
Ms. Prupus?
Nope.
Mr. Wasserman?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Does any committee member have any item of new business they wish to address?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So we heard dog park and we heard pedestrian bridge.
Yeah.
I want to understand what are we going to do? Dog park, as we discussed, going to go to rec? Are you going to email it to them? And then pedestrian bridge, you're going to email it to PISA?
Yes.
And then we follow up back here after their next meeting?
Yes, I think we'll make sure that they have the necessary information to explore, provide some information to the township committee. And in particular, if the individual who was here, who spoke about the bridge, could provide his contact information as well, that would be helpful. So that we can reach out to him on that as well.
I think he voted on the SDL, because that's why I responded to him.
Yes, I believe so.
He
So
reported SDL and he probably has given today as well.
we'll make sure that we reach out to him so that he knows when the next PSAB meeting is.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
But last year we talked about JFK site, the field, the tower, and the salt dome. Like, is there any movement on any of those things happening, or are we just kind of on hold?
Yeah, we are kind of on hold. The group is still, the township planner, DPW, engineering are still going through the iterations possibilities for the movement of that portion of the DPW site. So we want to be able to come back to the township committee, provide some better understanding of what that would be, what it would look like,
So
what
are
it would
they
cost, and
looking
where
at
it might be as well.
Different options
Right.
other than just that site?
Correct.
And do we have an idea of when that's going to happen?
I would say that we'll probably be back to the committee, and I don't want to underestimate, so I would probably say it would be in June, late June, that we'd come back with some at least preliminary idea. Certainly there's a focus right now with that particular project. There's a focus on the actual development as well as on this other part of it. So they're kind of on, parallel paths, but a little bit more focus on RPM and that site right now.
Okay, and then my other question is, I know that, so in 2025, we are going to have another round of affordable housing that we have to build. Another number is going to happen as it stands now. Is that right?
I think is that the whole state, unless things change
Yes.
legislatively,
Every
unless you could
municipality,
get.
yeah.
So that being said, and I know, we're a ways away, but how are we going to plan for that? Like, how are we going to make sure? At what point as a community do we start thinking about that and talking about that and figuring out how we're gonna address it and deal with it and whose voices are gonna be heard and, how we could do it differently than it happened this time?
I think it's a very good question.
Mhm.
We need to close everything up from this affordable housing meeting. As soon as we get done with that, we should start with the next round ourselves internally. We should strategize, we should plan now, because 2 years passes by quick.
So, yeah, I mean, I just think it's something maybe we can all
should
think
be-
about and talk
Yeah.
about and figure out how we're gonna deal
So
with
we're
this.
ahead of the 8 ball,
Yeah.
we're ahead of the curve. So that we're more proactive rather than having to be reactive.
I
So
think
that we're not last minute
Yeah.
forced to.
I think it would be a very good question for your planner as well,
Yeah.
and discussion with
Graham?
Yeah, I agree.
and yeah.
So what does that look like? Does that mean like Graham coming in here to the committee and
I-
talking about it, or? us
I
in
think
closed
initially maybe
session?
just providing
Or a
the
memo?
township committee with a memo to understand, like, here's how you can, here's the steps you can take to prepare for the next round and understanding what the next round is and things like that. And then I think at some point, you're probably gonna be, developing into some sort of subcommittee to start working on the approach. But I mean, that certainly might be one of their suggestions as well. But it's a really,
Didn't they start with the planning board last time?
it started with that housing element and fair share plan.
Yeah.
And that was initiated by the township and the planning board, but it was, I don't know that, having not been through a settlement before, whether that continues to be the route or not,
Okay.
so.
So maybe you could, it seems like there's consensus. to
100%.
that, So maybe you can.
Talk to
reach
Graham
out
about
Graham
that.
And I'd imagine Beth McManus might be helpful too.
Richard, did you have anything for new business?
No,
Okay.
I don't.
I'd like to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day for those who celebrate, moms, grandmoms. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Good night.